The New World Order?
The New World Order does not mean surrendering our national sovereignty or forfeiting our interests.
He took an oath to defend the Constitution of the United States of America. By some, he's been called controversial.
How can I convince you when your ears refuse to hear? You turn your heart away from me each time that I've gone near. Your eyes refuse to meet the thing that ignites the heaviest fear.
Now, keep in mind that some of my guests have been approached by Homeland Security or FBI saying, why are you going on the Clay Douglas show?
My message to those guys, if they're listening this morning, is go get a cup of coffee. Maybe you'll learn something.
We both took the same oath, to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. I don't recall there being an expiration date on that.
Well, it doesn't show. How can I contain the thing we said to stay? Knowing that you're right, blinded by the light.
He is the free American Clay Douglas. Catch the Free American weekdays at 7 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Eastern.
Every time I think about the damage that's been done, the anger wells inside me till I'm almost overcome. I want to tear the moon down and put the sky and drop the sun.
For the podcast and more details, visit www.freeamerican.com or catch the podcast by phone by calling 832-999-8621.
All right. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of the Free American. Everything seems to be working well today, even on Truth Radio, when we got all of the excess noise off of that. We are broadcasting on Truth Radio, Crusade Radio, Blog Talk, and YouTube. And today ought to be a day of hope. We are, this is Veterans Day today, and we're, well, a few things that I want to share with you. Donald Trump has spoken out and said thanks to our veterans. Donald Trump says November is a great month for Americans. In New York City, we get to look out on Central Park and see the leaves change as we move from the beauty of fall to a magnificent city, cloaked in the chill and briskness of winter. What we Americans often gloss over is that November is a time for celebrating the very reason we enjoy the freedom, opportunity, and prosperity found nowhere else in the world. The reason we are able to live like this, like we do, is due to the courage, dedication, and sacrifice of those who served in the armed forces of the United States, and to those who have given the last full measure. This November, we should pay particular attention to the world situation All over the world, young men and women who have volunteered to serve this nation are standing watch to protect us from the evil that is focused on taking away all that we value. We have turmoil in the Middle East, unrest in Europe, aggressive expansion in the Pacific Rim, and stateless terrorism that threatens every aspect of freedom all across the globe. At no time in history have things been so precarious, yet we are able to find the best among us to step forward and take on the traditions and values of generations past, humbly putting on the uniform of this nation. They do so to support and defend the Constitution, not the President, the Congress, or even the flag. They swear to defend an idea and an ideal also subtly stated in the preamble of our founding document. They take on the task to secure liberty for ourselves and our posterity. On November 10th, the Marine Corps celebrated its 240th birthday. The Marines were, are, and will remain unique in the world, a force that is first to fight and last to come home. The Marines have maintained the highest standards, and once a Marine, always a Marine captures the sense of duty and honor that permeates every pore of those who have worn the Eagle, Globe, and Anchor. Today, we honor all veterans who are and have served in the armed forces. This day has special meaning to many. Over the years, I've hired thousands of veterans and have found them to be among the very best. They bring no attention to themselves except in their extraordinary professionalism and dedication to whatever they choose to do. Quietly, humbly, and without fanfare, they go about their daily lives being good citizens, good moms and dads, and loving, devoted companions. Bearing up under the terrible damage of war, so many carry on with dignity and grace. We should be proud of them, and we should honor them every day. November is also the month we celebrate the military family. Too many of us have never had to be away from friends and family on holidays, birthdays, and anniversaries. We have never been asked to risk life and limb in places we cannot even find on a map. We should go about our daily lives enjoying freedom most of the time without ever thinking about what it is like to have a loved one in harm's way. The sacrifice and strength of military families, those who also serve, is so important to morale and the welfare of those so far from home. Donald Trump says, "I have lived a full life and have benefited more than most from the opportunities found in this country. I have a loving, healthy family, and I'm running for president, only in America, to be where I am. I thank God every day for those who stand on the ramparts of liberty with courage, strength, humility, and dignity. So this November, let's celebrate our veterans and their families and keep them in our prayers. Because of these dedicated Americans, we will be able to make America great again." And that was Donald Trump's words to you. People have come up to me when I've been wearing my Vietnam veterans cap. They've come up to me in Walmarts and H-E-B and public places and said, "Thank you for your service." And I have to tell them there was no expiration date on that oath that I took. No expiration date. And I do that every day. I work to preserve our Constitution, to warn you about the enemies, and some of them, and when I took that oath, it really struck me that I was defending this from all enemies, foreign and domestic. Domestic enemies. We may have had them from the signing of that declaration. We had the politicians and the lawyers working for England, and we still have that today. We fought a war against England more than once, and we fought on their side in 2 more wars, and we may have been wrong. We may have been wrong in backing a country that is ruled by the banksters, that uses lawyers. And another thing we've talked about here, they gave us the 13th Amendment back around 1812 that barred lawyers from holding public office. Today, all of the politicians in our Congress and our Senate work for the lawyers, work for the British accredited registry. We have to turn that around. We have to restore that 13th Amendment, and it's never been repealed. They just try to say, oh, no, not enough states signed it. That was a lie. That was a lie, and those lies may have started even long before that. Okay. Okay. Not many guests in the chat room, and that may be a good thing. It may be a good thing. Now, Henry McCow, who has been on my show many years in the past, featured a writer by the name of David Livingstone, and I wanted to share that with you today because it's some of the things we've been talking about. We've talked about the Illuminati, talked about the satanic conspiracy. David Livingstone says that America was founded by the Illuminati. One of the most influential figures in the American Revolution was the writer, philosopher, and scientist Benjamin Franklin. In February 1731, he became a Rosicrucian Mason, and in 1734, Provincial Grand Master of Pennsylvania, while in France in the 1770s as a diplomat for the American colonies. Franklin was made Grand Master of the politically oriented Masonic lodge called Neuf Seurs in Paris. We speak about the occult conspiracy as if it were going to erode the status quo. In fact, David Livingstone explains, the occult conspiracy is fait accompli. Modern Western civilization is built on the denial of spiritual reality, i.e., man's connection to God through our soul. The United States was created by occultists to impose this godless, i.e., satanic dispensation on the world. Society truly is a satanic cult. Now, this kind of gives you a tough way to go, tough way to look at it. You know, I have been attacked for trying to bring you information like this. The lawyers, the preachers, the priests, the rabbis out there, none of them like what I have to say. Because what I have told you, and this is echoed by David Livingstone, is man's connection to God through our soul. I've said the reason many of these satanic Jews hate us is because we have something they don't, a soul. And it's that soul that makes us go out. It's why I signed up for Vietnam. Didn't believe in the war, and the more I found out about the war in Korea and the war in Vietnam, the less I thought of it, and the more I opposed it. But I did not turn against the United States, its people, my fathers and grandfathers and my children, your children. I am still doing this as the free American because I believe God talks to me. He doesn't use the preachers. Maybe he does. Some of them are right on, people like Jake Wade. But Livingston says, like the French Revolution, the American Revolution created a new secular state, removing the authority of Christianity, replacing it with ideals secretly promulgated by the secret societies. Think about it. How many of your actors, how many of your actresses give you that symbol? Oh, yeah, George Bush is up there doing it. All your actors. Matter of fact, one of my novels on Lucifer talks about Lucifer being a talent agent. Riding a Harley and being a talent agent. Is he the bad guy for doing what we're supposed to be doing, promoting certain talents? We got a tremendous amount of talent out there in the music business. But when the agents get in there and the producers get in there, they take it a different direction. There is a satanic influence, not necessarily Luciferian, but a satanic influence that we need to be aware of. And again, what David Livingston is saying, the American Revolution created a new secular state, removing the authority of Christianity and replacing it with ideals secretly promulgated by the secret societies. These ideals were then firmly enshrined in the American Declaration of Independence, the United States Bill of Rights, and the French Declaration of Rights of Man and of the Citizen. It is a cryptic clue to their true origin. The Declaration of Human Rights, adopted in France after the Revolution, features several prominent occult symbols. First, the Illuminati symbol of the all-seeing eye within a triangle, now found on the Great Seal of the United States. Underneath the title is the Ouroboros, an ancient Gnostic symbol of Satan, found in Western alchemy. Underneath it is a red Pagaian, a cap derived from the pagan mysteries of Mithras. The entire declaration is guarded by twin Masonic pillars as the bonnet, the orator at the Grand Orient Assembly, boasted in 1904. When the Bastille fell, Freemasonry had the supreme honor of giving to humanity the chart which it had lovingly elaborated. It was our brother de Lafayette who first presented the project of a Declaration of the Natural Rights of Man and Citizens Living in Society to be the first chapter of the Constitution. On August 25th, 1789, the Constituent Assembly, of which more than 300 members were Masons, definitively adopted almost word for word in the form determined upon in the lodges the text of the immortal Declaration of Rights of Man. Enlightenment ideals spread across Europe and into America, where they influenced Benjamin Franklin and Thomas Jefferson, among many others, and played a major role in the American Revolution. All the members of the Boston Tea Party were Freemasons who belonged to the St. Andrew's Lodge of the city. Arguments about the taxes levied on the American colonies by the British finally came to a head in 1773 with the passing of the Tea Act. The British, attempting to save the East India Company from bankruptcy, arranged for the delivery of tea to the colonies. In their revolt against the new taxes they had to pay, a group of Boston citizens, disguised as Native Americans, raided the East India Company ships in the city harbor and threw their cargo overboard. When the British introduced a bill in March 1774 closing the Boston port until compensation was paid to the East India Company for the loss of their goods, events quickly escalated. Then a small force of colonial militia tried to seize the ammunition store at Concord and fired on the British redcoats, and the American Revolution had effectively begun. In 1754, George Washington was fighting the French, and with the encouragement of John Adams, a Freemason and member of the Secret Order of the Dragon, had begun a military career which led him to become the commander-in-chief of the rebel forces of the American Revolution. Like Washington, the majority of the military commanders of the American Revolutionary Army, which fought the British during the War of Independence, were practicing Freemasons. George Washington was himself a high-ranking Mason. He had taken his first degree initiation at Lodge in Fredericksburg, Virginia, in 1734. Among the 56 American rebels who signed the Declaration of Independence, only 6 were not members of the Masonic Order. Their success led to the establishment of the first modern secular state. The purpose of removing the role of religion from the state was ostensibly to limit the sort of persecution that had become habitual in Europe. More correctly, however, the goal of the Illuminati was to remove religion, which it referred to euphemistically as superstition and despotism, from the public sphere. The American Constitution itself was inspired by the French Revolution and the ideals of Freemasonry. It enshrined liberty, meaning freedom, from the yoke of Christian morality, rules which it attempted to replace with unalienable rights, a concept originally discussed among the secret meetings of the Illuminati. George Washington didn't believe that the doctrines of the Illuminati and the principles of Jacobinism had not spread to the United States. On the contrary, no one is more satisfied of this fact than I am, he said. Jefferson, the writer of the Declaration of Independence, was responsible for infiltrating the Illuminati into the newly organized lodges of the Scottish Rite in New England. Jefferson defended Weishaupt, saying as Weishaupt lived under the tyranny of despots and priests, he knew that caution was necessary even in spreading information and the principles of pure morality. This has given an air of mystery to his views, was the foundation of his banishment. If Weishaupt had written here, where no secrecy is necessary in our endeavors to render men wise and virtuous, he would not have thought of any secret machinery for that purpose. In September 18, 1793, President George Washington dedicated the United States Capitol. Dressed in Masonic apron, the President placed a silver plate on the cornerstone and covered it with Masonic symbols of corn, oil, and wine. The city of Washington, D.C. itself was designed by Freemason and architect Pierre Charles L'Infante in the form of a pentagram or five-pointed star. In 1848, in a Masonic ceremony, the cornerstone was laid of the Washington Monument, an obelisk or pillar like those formerly dedicated to the dying gods of the ancient Middle East. On July 4th, 1776, the day the Declaration of Independence was adopted, Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, and John Adams were appointed by the Continental Congress to design the Great Seal of the new United States of America. Franklin, having long been a Rosicrucian scientist, had been sent to Paris as a colonial ambassador to seek military and financial help for the colonies in December 1776. While there, he came into contact with the Illuminati, perhaps with Weishaupt himself. From this meeting, Franklin learned the esoteric significance of the number 13, the 13th being the day in October 1307 that the Templar persecution began, and the Illuminati plan for the 13 American colonies, which were to become a new world democracy, a philosophical Atlantis. He also saw a sketch of the seal Weishaupt had produced for the Illuminati, which sought to unite Sion and the Templars. The Illuminati seal, reverse side, shows a Templar 13-layered four-sided pyramid with its capstone missing. Above was a triangle and sun rays, and within it the all-seeing eye of Osiris and Sion, which some said represented Weishaupt's spine system. On the bottom layer in Latin was a date, 1776, the year Weishaupt founded the Illuminati. The seal represented the secret doctrine of the agents, the plan to build a new Atlantis in the New World. Weishaupt adopted the reverse side of the seal as the symbol of the Illuminati when he founded it on May 1st, 1776. James Perloff, who's been on my show, commented that this is another great piece by Livingston. The only thing I would add is that the Declaration of Independence was not written by Thomas Jefferson, who did not claim authorship until 1821. It was written by Thomas Paine, an ideological hitman dispatched by Benjamin Franklin from Britain to America in 1774 to write Common Sense and then the Declaration. Paine could not be acknowledged as the author of the Declaration because, 1, he was not an elected official, 2, he was not an American, and 3, he was virulently anti-Christian, as seen in his book, The Age of Reason, written in France, where he became an honorary citizen and member of the French Convention after the bloody revolution there. I'll try to get you a full essay on Paine's authoring the Declaration, but people can do their own research in the meantime and may find added interest in my article on this site about the false flag 1775 Battle of Lexington. From the beginnings, America was not what we have been told. And some of the comments here, this one by Stephen Coleman, said it appears many of the commentators have forgotten their European history. Religious warfare dominated Europe, starting with the Reformation and culminating in the 30-year War of Catholics versus Protestants, ending in 1648. This latter war wiped out 1/3 of the population of Europe. Many that came to America were refugees from this bloody maelstrom. Religion was used as a means to control people with fear of hell, and by guilt I was able to trace numerous personal ancestors that crossed to America: French Huguenots, Swiss Anabaptists, and English Puritans, all fleeing for their lives from religious persecution. Yes, I have an ancestor that was beheaded in Switzerland for preaching Anabaptism, and another in France came home from gathering firewood to find his family massacred by the Catholic soldiers, and my English ancestors had their homes and business confiscated and thrown into dire poverty and starvation by the English crown. They didn't come to America because it was a nice thing to do. They did so because it was do or die. So many malign the founding fathers, Satanists, are totally ignorant of the tyrannies being ruled by royalty and religion. I think if you want to find the real Satanists, one must look into the European royal families, whom each one can trace their ancestry directly to the Roman empires, and especially any popes and cardinals of the Venetian origins. No wonder the founding fathers wanted separation of state and religion, and their wisdom, religious freedom, then spread throughout most of the world. To many of them, religion was synonymous with evil, corruption, torture, and death. Not all Masons are Satanists, and not all Satanists are Masons. Satanists have infiltrated many churches, clubs, and organizations and government offices worldwide. It talks about another author here who wrote a book about the extraordinary efforts of a Catholic priest to bring harmony to Native American Indians and American soldiers. He conveniently barely makes a footnote in history books, given the winners write history, and America has never been a Catholic nation. It cannot be argued that the framers of the Constitution did not see America as the new Atlantis, that they did not foresee America becoming the empire she is now. Remember, it was 55 people who gave us our Constitution. Over half were lawyers, all were politicians. Many founders warned us of the greatly expanded federal powers and the weakened states' rights that came from the Constitution. 4 of the 13 states refused to ratify the document until they were guaranteed a Bill of Rights, which consists of the first 10 amendments of the Constitution. Never forget the framers were perfectly content with the document without the first 10 amendments. That should tell us something. And again, a few words of warning from Patrick Henry on the dangers of the new Constitution. If your American chief, your president, be a man of ambition and abilities, how easy is it for him to render himself absolute? The army is in his hands. If he be a man of address, it will be attached to him, and it will be the subject of a long mediation with him to seize the first auspicious moment to accomplish his design. And sir, will the American spirit solely relieve you when this happens? I would rather infinitely, I am sure most of this convention are the same opinion, have a king, a lords and commons, than a government so replete with such unsupportable evils. All right. Now, we've also talked about America being Mystery Babylon just a couple of shows ago. And let me, before I launch into that, let me see if we've got, we got one Harley rider in here in the chat room. Not much else. All right. There are some prophecy experts who have proposed the theory that Rome or even Iraq is the location for the Mystery Babylon of prophecy. That theory considers the ancient prophecies of Revelation chapter 17 and 18 primarily. Some of those experts also refer to the prophecies of Isaiah 13, 14, 18, 47, and Jeremiah 50, 51. That is the main line of proof for such a view. The site of Mystery Babylon can be the only liberal rendering of this prophecy, according to some theorists. They proudly claim that they are the only holy, literal interpreters of the text. To take the text literally, one must assume then that ancient Babylon is the liberal Babylon of the prophecies written by the Old and New Testament authors. Such a view assumes way too much, particularly in the translation work. Is it possible that there could be a different and more literal view based on the sharper rendering of the original Hebrew and Greek text? Yes? Why? The results, however, indicate that America's is Mystery Babylon theory is correct and valid. Why? It's really very simple. Follow the exact rendering of the original Hebrew and Greek text for themselves, and you will find numerous character traits for the future nation of Mystery Babylon. And yes, I did use the term nation because, again, what seems to be merely a city being described is not just a city. Most literally, the prophecies not only refer to a city, but to cities, plural. Also, the prophecies refer to the framing and farmers of Babylon. There are no farms in a city. Well, at least not yet, but we'll be talking about that a little bit later too. There are numerous character traits listed for the city-state nation, which is referred to as either Babylon or Mystery Babylon. These character traits serve as identifying markers which give us clues as to the identity of such a city-nation. Those traits must all match perfectly to one identity. We cannot ignore some and select others. These traits are numerous, and 60 of these traits clearly can be identified with America. The following list shows what traits do match up with America. Number 1, the Jewish population issue, Jeremiah 58:25, Jeremiah 51:6-45, Isaiah 48:20, and also Revelation 18:4. These all are all references to Jewish people living in this future Mystery Babylon. In the ancient Babylon from the 6th century BC into well into the early church age, the majority of the Jewish population had lived in ancient Babylon. It was home to most of the world's Jews, even at the time of Christ. The largest population of Jewish people is found in the United States. The next two nations combined, Israel, home to the second largest Jewish population, and Russia, home to the third largest Jewish population, do not equal the population of Jewish people living in America. Iraq, on the other hand, only has a relatively handful of Jews living within its borders. Some estimate the Jewish population in Iraq at perhaps 10,000. That's not very many people, particularly in regards to the population of most other nations hosting a Jewish remnant. The character trait of being the lead host for Jewry is indicative that America today fulfills the prophecies of Mystery Babylon. Therefore, this trait alone qualifies the theory of America equals Mystery Babylon. Number 2, the chief city of Mystery Babylon is a deep water port city, Revelation 18:17 through 19. This passage tells us that the merchant ships are standing off the shorelines of Babylon. These ships have either just unloaded in the port city of Mystery Babylon or are waiting to dock when the fiery judgment hits. The ship's captains, crew, and passengers are witnesses to the destruction. Question: why would these folks be standing on the deck of merchant ships unless there were port facilities in the city? Answer: the city is a port city in this day and age, especially by virtue of the list of commodities that are traded in Mystery Babylon. See Revelation 8:18, 11 to 13. There must be at least one deep-water port in this nation of Mystery Babylon. One thing can be noted: regard to modern-day port facilities. In order for Babylon to have the kind of merchandise described in Revelation 18:11, 13, coming by ships, then those ships must be going to and from a deep-water seaport. Why? For today's ships to bring such merchandise requires them to be large commercial freighters with deep drawing drafts. These ships require deep-water port facilities to dock and load and unload because the hulls are so deep. They're big ships. Now here is knowledge. America has a deep-water seaports. That's right. There is a deep-water seaport facilities in all of America. Number 3, it is the key commercial nation, an engine of wealth for the world's economy. Isaiah 47:15, Revelations 17:2, Revelations 18:3 and 9, 11 and 13, 15, 16, 17, 17, 19. In these passages, we see just what relationship Babylon enjoys to the rest of the world. Here she is clearly the critical factor in the world economy. When she goes down in flames, what is the lament? What was likened to this mega city? Who will buy her goods now that she is gone? The answer is that no one will be able to buy the product of the world's merchants. What does this tell us? It should be a clear warning indicator that whoever this nation is, the rest of the world depends on her for buying their merchandise. With her destruction, there is no one left to buy these goods. That tells us just how vital this nation is, and it means this nation is the engine of wealth for the world. Now, America does fit that role. Number 4. It is the principal commodities trading center. These are all commodities in a list that are the chief trading products as cited in Revelations 18:11 through 13, for which the merchants and the sailors later lamented that no one will buy these products. That includes gold, silver, and copper. Now, in these items alone, there's more gold traded in New York City on the COMEX in one day than in all of the rest of the world combined. The same is true for silver and copper and crude oil. In fact, the volume of trade is so heavy that in one day alone there is more gold traded than has been traded in all of human history up until 1974, when gold trading was allowed on a futures contractual basis. This is how massive and dominant the USA and New York City are in the commodities trading markets. Revelation 18:12 and 13 lists many other commodities as well, including grains and livestock. Now, Chicago is the host city for such a record trading in that area, and it too is a port city as it sits on Lake Michigan. The fact for the matter, America is an economic power. It is an economic engine of wealth for the whole world. If America vanished from the face of the earth today, it would cause a ripple in the world's economy. However, if the USA vanished today, it would decimate the world's economy and bankrupt every nation on earth instantly. In essence, there would be no one left to buy the foreigner's goods. That's because no one else wants to import goods. They only want to export, not import. The USA is the big promoter of the international trade and promotes imports plus free trade. Number 5 here, a leading center of imports and consumption, Revelations 18, 11, 17, and 19. These passages tell us of the economic picture of the nation. Note that this nation not only evolved in the trade of these products, but she is also the leading importer, because when she is destroyed, no one buys their merchandise anymore. The folks doing the lamenting are the international merchants who export goods to this mystery Babylon. Therefore, she is the leading import nation. She is therefore, by virtue of the importer status, the chief consuming nation. This is also a description of America. America has such status in the world today, tomorrow, and the foreseeable future in this aspect, which negates the Rome theory, because if the connection is that we are living in the last days and the fulfillment of the end times negates the Rome theory, because the contention is that we are living in the last days and the fulfillment of end times prophecy is at hand. If that's true, and I assert that it indeed is true, how could Rome match these character traits in so short a span of time? The answer, she can't. Rome is not the nation being described. There's only one nation that fits these tracts and more. That nation is the United States of America. She is also a manufacturing nation, Revelations 18 and 22. This passage tells us a manufacturer is no longer found in her after the judgment. This tells us she was a manufacturing nation prior to her destruction. Rome is not a nation noted for manufacturing. 7. The Center for Merchandising and Marketing, Revelation 18, 3, 23, 19, 2. Her merchants were the mega merchants of the earth. This again does not fit any character traits of Rome. It does, however, fit the picture of America. Known as the world's policeman, number 8, Jeremiah 50, 23, gives us a Hebrew idiom, hammer of the whole earth. It had been used at one time to describe the way the empires of Persia, Greece, and Rome had applied their power to keep the world at peace. Today, after the fall and decline of the Iron Curtain, major news media refer to America as the world's policeman, in the same kind of role that the Hebrew idiom references. Rome does not fit this role. Known for showing the flag or gunboat diplomacy, Isaiah 18, 1 through 2, here we have two Hebrew idioms for the idea of a nation's navy showing its power. The phrase in verse 1 relates to the idea of air travel. The first phrase of the verse 2, that sends ambassadors by the sea, another Hebrew idiom for when ancient and naval powers would send warships to show the flag of friendship or threaten war to unfriendly nations or cities. Today, one nation engages in such actions. The USA sends out naval units, usually as aircraft carrier battle groups. The notion of the verse 1 with air travel combined with verse 2, the naval aspect, thus combines to send a notion of naval air power or supporting aircraft carriers. Number 10, noted for the elegant, luxurious, refined, and rich lifestyle, says Isaiah 47, 1 through 8, Revelation 17, 4 and 5, 18, 2 to 24. This does not match up with Rome, as it is not capable of reaching such levels of wealthy living standards in our lifetime. Extremely wealthy, Jeremiah 51 and 13, Revelations 18, 2 through 19. Number 12, sensual, materialistic lifestyle, Isaiah 47, 8, Revelations. The highest living standards, Isaiah 47, Revelations 18, 14. Number 14, intoxicating high society lifestyle as a world example to emulate. Noted for the bright, gaudy colored lights and nightlife with around-the-clock partying. Revelations 18:14. Note the words dainty and goodly. Dainty is a word in Greek that connotes to 24 hours parties and is connected with orgies and debauchery. The word for goodly in the Greek word lampra, from which we get the English word for lamp. In this case, it carries the idea of bright, gaudily colored lights and the idea of glitz lights. Could this be the bright lights of Brooklyn, Times Square, and perhaps even Las Vegas? So number 17, noted for its drugs and drug use, Isaiah 47, 9 through 12, Revelations 18:23. Do we even need to comment on this one? I think not. The text clearly speaks for itself on this one. And number 18 says it's noted, Mystery Babylon is noted for exporting its culture abroad. It's noted for being wasteful and extravagant, Revelations 18, 3, 7, 9, 14, 15, and implied in Revelation 17, 2. And number 20 talks about massive population. Number 21, a land of immigrants. Number 22, unique and awe-inspiring from its birthright to its demise. Number 23, a remarkably different heritage. 24, respected, envied, and yet hated by the whole world also. 25, another unique character trait. America is Mystery Babylon. Cosmopolitan and urban, Jeremiah 50. A land of agriculture, an international city, architecture, building, and skyline, Isaiah 13. Land of many waters, fresh waters, Jeremiah 51 and 13. Where the world's leaders stream to meet, Jeremiah 51 through 44. The last of the superpowers, Jeremiah 50 through 12. And in Revelation 18:19 passage, what city is like the megacity? No fear of invasion, Isaiah 47. Defenses reach up to outer space, Jeremiah 51 through 53. Occult aspects, especially within the government leadership. Alliances, treaties allowing physical military bases of operation for the satanic forces, Jeremiah, Revelation 18:2. Its national symbol, Revelations 17, robed woman with a cup-like container in one hand that smells like natural gas odors inside the container, and that is woman is connected to water and immigration. That is considered to be the mother figure of spiritual prostitution, aka Ishtar, the mother of literal and physical prostitutes within religious working centers. That is what the Babylon goddess Ishtar was, the promoter of physical prostitution. Salvation by sex. Have sex with a temple priest or priestess, and now you're purified from sin. Of course, you're paying a gift offering in the salvation activity. Ishtar was never a physical mother, but rather Madam over the priestesses. Ishtar was never married, never had a child, but was called Mother of the temple priestesses. Having said all this, I'm referring to the Statue of Liberty. Babylonians that worshipped Ishtar, the goddess of Babylon, and the Romans that adopted her, but they changed the name to Libertas in Latin, Liberty in English. So the Statue of Liberty is actually a pagan idol of Ishtar, the woman pictured in Revelation 17. If you don't believe it, look at Revelation 17, 4 and 5. Note the word for abomination. The word used here as Veluma, and its root word is bio, Strong's Code 1947, a foul thing, detestable, usually of idols. The root word means to break wind or pass gas, indicating the odor smells like a natural gas. And speaking of natural gas, did you know that the torch cup of the Statue of Liberty burns an eternal flame, burned by smelly natural gas? Also, of course, the statue is referred to as the mother of exiles, an immigrant connection, just as the woman of Revelation 17, 1 and 15 is also connected to immigrants. So too was Ishtar. She was the goddess of personal freedom and an encouragement to immigrants. And America is now extremely radioactive because of America's use of ammunition. They use a depleted uranium, the same basic component used for national weapons, nuclear weapons, only in lesser strength in and of itself. Rifle bullets and artillery shells that were packed with small amounts of radioactive depleted uranium. Once fired, the shells and bullets spread small doses of radioactivity throughout much of America, especially in hot spots like ancient Babylon. Each bullet or shell was thought to be seemingly harmless in their terms of radioactivity. It was not anticipated that the voluminous use of each such radioactive materials scattered across the battlefields of America. Such voluminous use has created large quantities of low-level radioactivity that in volume has created another dangerous atmosphere and environment for virtually all of America. The radioactive dust has found its way to the soil and the water supplies, contaminating every living thing it comes into contact with. Radioactivity levels are high enough that America is experiencing contamination levels much like that of a nuclear dirty bomb. In the term of the side effects, not only are Americans dying from exposure, but so are U.S. and Allied soldiers. Uranium is a very reactive material, easily oxidizing with U-308 and U-02. A single 120 millimeter Abrams tank DU shell contains 3 kilograms of U-238, and there is 275 grams in a 30 millimeter GAU Thunderbolt cannon shell. These penetrators explode on impact with up to 80% conversion to the tiny long-lived glass beads of uranium oxide. From these hot particles can travel very large distances, even hundreds of miles, under the influence of wind, fire, and are easily suspended. The smaller particles can easily pass through the lungs into the blood and lymphatic systems. Depleted uranium has a half-life of 4.5 billion years. Radiation levels in America are between 1,000 and 1,900 times above normal. In some studies of soldiers who had normal babies before the war, 67% of the post-war babies are born with severe birth defects, missing brains, eyes, organs, legs, and arms, and there are blood diseases. In southern Africa, scientists are reporting 5 times higher levels of gamma radiation in the air, which increases the radioactive body burden daily of inhabitants. In fact, America, Yugoslavia, and Afghanistan are completely uninhabitable. Cancer starts with 1 alpha particle under the right conditions. 1 gram of DU is the size of a period in this sentence and releases 12,000 alpha particles per second. The Masonic covenant to Abraham included Babylon and Babylonia and Babylon. America conquered Iraq in 2003 and retained strategic control of that land, and will retain that control most likely until America, the Babylon, is destroyed in divine judgment as the mystery Babylon. Regardless of such, the fact that America retains strategic control of the land, that from a prophetic standpoint, America is Babylon. But if you don't wish to believe even this, consider the most literal of all. A populated city named Babylon is in New York. Revelation 17, 18, 11 through 19. Did you know that the ships come into the harbor facility of New York City, make their final approach in the harbor shipping lanes? They have come in from the south, heading due north for a spot on Long Island called Babylon. That's right. The city of Babylon, New York, features a tall water tower that ship captains use to navigate directly into the harbor channel. That comes from within view of Babylon. They come within view of Babylon before turning west to head into the ports of New York City. It is from this vantage point, I believe, Revelation 18, 17 through 19 takes place. From this vantage point on the deck of a ship, one could quite easily read the letters of the name Babylon on the city water tower. Talk about literal. Now that is indeed literal. There's something that theorists who promote the America Babylon idea can't match, because ancient Babylon is not a deep water seaport. It is so far away from the ocean that it cannot possibly fit the description of Revelation 18, 17 through 19 in no way, but the USA can, and especially if its chief city, a seaport named New York City, Babylon. Also, Babylon on Long Island derived its name because immigrant Jews founded it in 1872. The group's rabbi chose the name prophetically because they believed it would be home for a new diaspora. Why would they think this? Because rabbinical opinions had held that ancient Babylon's power would be moved. Zechariah 5:11, and Isaiah 18:1 tells us what direction it would be moving. Isaiah 18:1 says that the spirit of Babylon would move west of the most outermost boundaries of ancient Babylon's westernmost harbor, between the rivers of Ethiopia and Egypt. That is what is meant by the KIV term Ethiopia, by virtue of Isaiah's point of observation from Babylon. The direction of movement was westward from Jerusalem, beyond the most outer of Babylon's oldest boundaries, meaning that the occult power that fueled Babylon would move and take up residence elsewhere in the end of time. Thus, scripture that proves America is Babylon. Why will our expert scholars not accept the scriptural images on this? Is it due to pride? Is it due to ignorance? However, it seems to me that their hypocrisy shows. Early rabbinical writers commented on this well before the time of Christ. They made note that the mystical woman of Babylon had moved out of Babylonian Empire and had been taken westward beyond the ancient boundaries of Babylon. Thus, those most westward boundaries were considered to be Egypt and Ethiopia. The woman was taken west of these two countries. They know that the woman would not be found in its old location of Mesopotamia for the fulfillment of the final prophecy, that it would be fulfilled at the coming of the Messiah. These rabbinical commentaries believed that a future Babylon was not prophesied by Isaiah and Jeremiah, would be located west of Egypt and Ethiopia. They believed the woman of Zechariah 5 was headed west of those boundaries, and hence out of the utmost regions of Babylonia, Shinar, Chaldea. Yes, they believed she was being taken west of Egypt and Ethiopia in that basket. Why? Note that the observer's vantage point was already the land of Shinar. Shinar is another term for the ancient nation of Babylon or Chaldea. Therefore, we must pay attention to the scriptural direction and realize that this must be a new nation that carries the old Babylonian character traits. You note that the verse is indicating that a different Shinar than the Chaldean or Babylonian land called Shinar. How do we know that? Isaiah 18, 1 through 2 tells us that the observer's vantage point of Jerusalem, that the phrase beyond the rivers of Ethiopia is an ancient dogmatic reference to the furthest boundaries of Babylon of the type of Cush, father of Nimrod. Nimrod inherited that land from his father, and so Egypt and Ethiopia were the extreme western borders of Babylon, Shinar, or Chaldea. Now, Isaiah is telling us that a future Babylon would exist at the time of the coming of the Messiah, and it would be located beyond the old Babylonian empirical boundaries of Egypt and Ethiopia, which was the Cush engine that Nimrod inherited. It too was Shinar. Zechariah is then referencing that the woman is being flown out of Babylon, Chaldea, Shinar to a new land of Shinar. That confirms what the prophet Isaiah had written earlier concerning the future land of Babylon being located west of the old Babylon. There's reportedly a team of archaeological experts preparing to publish the results of many years of work in which they claim to have documented fact that the Babylonians occupied North America and Mexico as colonies as early as around 3000 BC. If this were true, then it would further highlight and underscore the reasons for these statements made by the prophets and the rabbinical commentaries. We do know this, that the nation being referred to is none other than America. Very good. Very good. Now, let's see. What do we got going in Blog Talk Studio? Nothing's happening here. In the chat room, let's see what else we got. We got any more news here? Yeah, I want to share this with you. I've told you for years now about my Liberty Village concept. And I've told you you could do it in your backyard. Grow your own food. This just came across my desk today. No yard of your own? No problem. The demand for community gardens is on the rise all around the nation. You don't need your own space to grow food, but you can find out how to become part of a communal plot and get to work. Vacant lots are being turned into food-producing spaces where neighbors know each other, who know more, teach neighbors who are just starting out. People who want to save money, green the planet, and eat fresh food. Now growing produce together in a community garden is more popular than ever.
Community gardens are sprouting all over the United States. Amateur gardeners like Sean Sullivan in Los Angeles are driven by an urge to green the planet. Others farm their own veggies to save money amid the recession, exercise, and eat fresh. Sue Pringle is weeding her plot in West Philadelphia so she can grow lettuces and radishes.
I've just been taken off the waiting list and have been admitted to the Garden Court Community Garden. I've been on the waiting list for a year, and I feel lucky to be in.
That plot was formerly one of 30,000 vacant lots in Philadelphia. The National Gardening Association predicts community gardens in the United States could mushroom fivefold to around 5 million over the next few years. Experts believe this trend is sustainable because of the aging baby boomer population, the earth movement, and the greening of once empty lots. Eva Monheim is a senior horticulture lecturer at Temple University, Ambler.
In most of the industrialized cities, you're going to see the derelict buildings. They're coming down. They're using the vacant lots for community gardens.
Her campus turned this unused plot into a community garden. Horticulture supervisor Grace Chapman says the response was overwhelming.
I just sent out a quick email just to our campus, but I think people started forwarding it to different people on main campus, so I have about 45 people who are looking for spots, and we only have around 30 that we have available. A woman emailed me and said, I'm so glad that you're doing this, because due to the economic problems that my family is facing, we've lost a couple jobs, and now I have extended family living with me, so we're really counting on this as a supplement to our income, and also, to cut our grocery bills in half.
Back in balmy Los Angeles, Sean says it's not just the environment, but the community environment that's satisfying.
In a community garden, there's lots of people with lots of knowledge who I found to be very friendly and willing to share that information.
And be part of a movement that has people returning to their roots. Fred Katayama, Reuters, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
All right. The whole Liberty Village concept is still viable, and it is spreading. Spreading, yes. Matter of fact, let's see if we can do this. Let's check on, see, bring Ron Finley back up. Ron Finley plants vegetable gardens in south central LA and abandoned lots, traffic medians along curbs. Why? For fun, for defiance, for beauty, and to offer some alternative to fast foods in a community where the drive-thrus are killing more people than the drive-bys.
I live in South Central. This is South Central. Liquor stores, fast food, vacant lots. So the city planners, they get together and they figure they're going to change the name South Central to make it represent something else. So they change it to South Los Angeles. Like this is going to fix what's really going wrong in the city. This is South Los Angeles. Liquor stores, fast food, vacant lots. Just like 26.5 million other Americans, I live in a food desert. South Central Los Angeles, home of the drive-through and the drive-by. Funny thing is, the drive-throughs are killing more people than the drive-bys. People are dying from curable diseases in South Central Los Angeles. For instance, the obesity rate in my neighborhood is like 5 times higher than, say, Beverly Hills, which is like probably 8-10 miles away. I got tired of seeing this happening. And I wonder, how would you feel if you had no access to healthy food? If every time you walk out your door, you see the ill effects that the present food system have on your neighborhood? I see wheelchairs bought and sold like used cars. I see dialysis centers popping up like Starbucks. And I figured this has to stop. So I figured that the problem is the solution. Food is the problem, and food is the solution. Plus, I got tired of driving 45 minutes round trip to get an apple that wasn't impregnated with pesticides. So what I did, I planted a food forest in front of my house. It's on a strip of land that we call a parkway. It's like 150 feet by like 10 feet. The thing is, it's owned by the city, but you have to maintain it. So I'm like, cool. I do whatever the hell I want. Since it's my responsibility and I got to maintain it, and this is how I decided to maintain it. So me and my group, LA Green Grounds, we got together and we started planting my food forest, fruit trees, you know, the whole nine. For vegetables, what we do, we're a pay-it-forward kind of group, where it's composed of like gardeners from all walks of life from all over the city, and it's completely volunteer, and everything we do is free. And in the garden, it was beautiful. And then somebody complained. The city came down on me. and basically gave me a citation saying that I had to remove my garden, which this citation would turn into a warrant. And I'm like, come on, really? A warrant for planting food on a piece of land that you could care less about? And I was like, cool, bring it. Because this time it wasn't coming up. So LA Times got hold of it. Steve Lopez did a story on it and talked to the councilman. And one of the Green Grounds members, they put up a petition on change.org. And with 900 signatures, We were a success. We had a victory on our hands. My councilman even called and said how they endorse and love what we're doing. I mean, come on, why wouldn't they? LA leads the United States in vacant lots that the city actually owns. They own 26 square miles of vacant lots. That's 20 Central Parks. That's enough space to plant 700 million, 725 million tomato plants. Why in the hell would they not okay this? Growing one plant will give you 1,000, 10,000 seeds. Okay. When $1 worth of green beans will give you like $75 worth of produce. It's my gospel. I'm telling people, grow your own food. Growing your own food is like printing your own money. Thank you. I have a legacy in South Central. I grew up there. I raised my sons there. And I refuse to be a part of this manufactured reality that was manufactured for me by some other people, and I'm manufacturing my own reality. See, I'm an artist. Gardening is my graffiti. I grow my art. Just like a graffiti artist, where they beautify walls, me, I beautify lawns, parkways. I use the garden, the soil, like it's a piece of cloth. And the plants and the trees, that's my embellishment for that cloth. You'd be surprised what the soil could do if you let it be your canvas. You just couldn't imagine how amazing a sunflower is and how it affects people. So what happened? I have witnessed my garden become a tool for the education, a tool for the transformation of my neighborhood. To change the community, you have to change the composition of the soil. We are the soil. You'd be surprised how kids are affected by this. Gardening is the most therapeutic and defiant act you can do, especially in the inner city. Plus you get strawberries. I remember this time, there was this mother and a daughter came, it was like 10:30 at night, and they were in my yard, and I came out and they looked so ashamed, I'm like, man, it made me feel bad that they were there, and I told them, you don't have to do this like this. This is on the street for a reason. It made me feel ashamed to see people that was this close to me that was hungry, and this only reinforced why I do this. And people ask me, "Seeing, aren't you afraid people are going to steal your food?" And I'm like, hell no, I ain't afraid they're going to steal it. That's why it's on the street. That's the whole idea. I want them to take it, but in the same time, I want them to take back their health. There's another time when I put a garden in this homeless shelter in downtown Los Angeles. The guys, they helped me unload the truck. It was cool. They just shared the stories about how this affected them and how they used to plant with their mother and their grandmother, and it was just cool to see how this changed them, if it was only for that one moment. So Green Grounds has gone on to plant maybe like 20 gardens. We've had like 50 people come to our dig-ins and participate, and it's all volunteers. If kids grow kale, kids eat kale. If they grow tomatoes, they eat tomatoes. But when none of this is presented to them, if they're not shown how food affects the mind and the body, they blindly eat whatever the hell you put in front of them. I see young people, and they want to work, but they're in this thing where they're caught up. I see kids of color, and they just on this track that's designed for them that leads them to nowhere. So with gardening, I see an opportunity where we can train these kids to take over their communities, to have a sustainable life. And when we do this, who knows? We might produce the next George Washington Carver. But if we don't change the composition of the soil, we will never do this. Now this is one of my plans. This is what I want to do. I want to plant a whole block of gardens where people can share in the food in the same block. I want to take shipping containers and turn them into healthy cafes. And now don't get me wrong. I'm not talking about no free shit, because free is not sustainable. The funny thing about sustainability, you have to sustain it. What I'm talking about is putting people to work and getting kids off the street and letting them know the joy, the pride, and the honor in growing your own food. Opening farmers markets. So what I want to do here, we got to make this sexy. So I want us all to become evolutionary, renegades, gangsters, gangster gardeners. We got to we got to flip the script on what a gangster is. If you ain't a gardener, you ain't gangster. Get gangster with your shovel, okay? And let that be your weapon of choice. So basically, if you want to meet with me, if you want to meet, don't call me. If you want to sit around in cushy chairs and have meetings where you talk about doing some shit, If you want to meet with me, come to the garden with your shovel so we can plant some shit. Peace. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Now let's get kind of back to some of the problems that nobody wants to talk about. I got a picture here of John Kerry standing in front or behind a Israeli flag. The Israeli flag is in front of the American flag. And Kerry's hiding behind them both. Publicly, our nations
sadly,
hang on, let's see what this is.
in the next 18 minutes when I do our chat, 4 Americans that are alive will be dead through the food that they eat.
This is James Oliver.
My name's James
talking
Oliver.
about the food.
I'm 34 years old. I'm from Essex in England. And for the last 7 years I've worked fairly tirelessly to save lives in my own way. I'm not a doctor. I'm a chef. I don't have expensive equipment or medicine. I use information, education. I profoundly believe that the power of food has a primal place in our homes that binds us to the best bits of life. We have an awful, awful reality right now. America, you're at the top of your game. This is one of the most unhealthy countries in the world. Can I please just see a raise of hands for how many of you have children in this room today? Please put your hands up. Aunties, uncles, you can continue. Put your hands up. Aunties and uncles as well? Most of you. Okay. We, the adults of the last 4 generations, have blessed our children with the destiny of a shorter lifespan than their own parents. Your child will live a life 10 years younger than you because of the landscape of food that we've built around them. 2/3 of this room today in America are statistically overweight or obese. You lot, you're all right, but we'll get you eventually, don't worry. Right? The statistics of bad health are clear, very clear. We spend our lives being paranoid about death, murder, homicide, you name it. It's on the front page of every paper, CNN. Look at homicide at the bottom, for God's sake. Right? Every single one of those ones in the red is a diet-related disease. Any doctor, any specialist will tell you that. Fact. Diet-related disease is the biggest killer in the United States right now, here today. This is a global problem. It's a catastrophe. It's sweeping the world. England is right behind you, as usual. I know they were close, but not that close. We need a revolution. Mexico, Australia, Germany, India, China, all have massive obesity and bad health. Think about smoking. It costs way less than obesity now. Obesity costs you Americans 10% of your healthcare bills, $150 billion a year. In 10 years, $300 billion a year. And let's be honest, guys, I ain't got that cash. I came here to start a food revolution that I so profoundly believe in. We need it. The time is now. We're in a tipping point moment. I've been doing this for 7 years. I've been trying in America for 7 years. Now is the time when it's ripe for the picking. I went to the eye of a storm. I went to West Virginia, the most unhealthy state in America, or it was last year. We've got a new one this year, but we'll work on that next season. Huntington, West Virginia, beautiful town. I wanted to put heart and soul and people, your public, around statistics that we've become so used to. I want to introduce you to some of the people that I care about. Your public, your children. I want to show a picture of my friend Brittany. She's 16 years old. She's got 6 years to live because of the food that she's eaten. She's the third generation of Americans that hasn't grown up in a food environment where they've been taught to cook at home or in school, or a mum, or a mum's mum. She has 6 years to live. She's eating her liver to death. Stacey, the Edwards family. This is a normal family, guys. Slave does her best, but she's third generation as well. She was never taught to cook at home. The family's obese. Justin here, 12 years old. He's 50 pounds. He gets bullied for God. The daughter there, Katie, she's 4 years old. And gets arms. Marissa, she's alright. But you know what? Her arms. And then the second most important man died of obesity. And now our stepdad is obese. You see, the thing is, obesity and diet-related disease doesn't just hurt the people that have it, it's all of their friends, families, brothers, sisters. Pastor Steve, an inspirational man, one of my early allies in Huntington, West Virginia. He's at the sharp knife edge of this problem. He has to bury the people, okay? And he's fed up with it. He's fed up with burying his friends, his family, his community. Come winter, every time many people die. He's sick of it. This is preventable disease. By the way, this is what they get buried. When you get up, this. Can't even get them out the door, and I'm being serious. Can't even get them there, full cliff. Okay, I see it as a triangle, okay? This is our landscape of food. I need you to understand it. You've probably heard all this before, but let's just go back over it. Over the last 30 years, what's happened that's ripped the heart out of this country? Let's be frank and honest. Well, modern day life. Let's start with the main street. Fast food has taken over the whole country, we know that. The big brands are some of the most important powers, powerful powers in this country. Supermarkets as well. Big companies. Big companies. 30 years ago, most of the food was largely local. and largely fresh. Now it's largely processed and full of all sorts of additives, extra ingredients, and you know the rest of the story. Portion size is obviously a massive, massive problem. Labelling is a massive problem. Labelling in this country is a space. They want to be self-police themselves. They want to self-police themselves. Well, in current, they don't deserve it. How can you say it is the big problem at home is that has to be the heart of passing on food culture, what made society. That ain't happening anymore. And you know, as we go to work and as life changes, and as life always evolves, we don't have to look at it typically. Step back for a moment and readjust the balance. It ain't happening. It hasn't happened for 30 years, okay? I'll show you a situation is very normal right now. The Edwards family. Let's have a talk. This stuff goes through you and your family's body every week. And I need you to know that this is to kill your children early. How you feeling?
Just feeling really sad and depressed right now. You know, I want my kids to succeed in life, and this isn't going to get them there. But I'm killing them.
Yes, you are. You are. But we can stop that. Normal. Let's get on schools. Something that I'm fairly much a specialist in. Okay, school. What is school? Who invented it? What's the purpose of school? School was always invented to arm us with the tools to make us creative, be able to do wonderful things, make us earn a living, etc., etc., etc. You know, it's been kind of in this sort of tight box for a long, long time, okay? But we haven't really evolved it to deal with the health catastrophes of America, okay? School food is something that most kids, 31 million a day actually, have twice a day, more than often, breakfast and lunch, 180 days of the year. So you could say that school food is quite important really, judging the circumstances. Before I crack into my rant, which I'm sure you're waiting for, I need to say one thing, and it's so important in hopefully the magic that happens and unfolds in the next 3 months. The lunch ladies, the lunch cooks of America, I offer myself as their ambassador. I'm not slagging them off. They're doing the best they can do. They're doing their best. But they're doing what they're told, and what they're being told to do is wrong. The system is highly run by accountants. There's not enough or any food knowledgeable people in the business. There's a problem. If you're not a food expert and you've got tight budgets and it's getting tighter, then you can't be creative. You can't duck and dive and write different things and things. If you're an accountant and a box ticker, the only thing you can do in these circumstances is bunch of shit. Now, the reality is the food that your kids get every day is fast food. It's highly processed. There's not enough fresh food in there at all. You know, the amount of additives, E-numbers, ingredients you wouldn't believe. Not enough veggies at all. French fries are considered a vegetable. Pizza for breakfast. They don't even get given crockery. Knives and forks, no, they're too dangerous. There's scissors in the classroom, but knives and forks, no. And the way I look at it is if you don't have knives and forks in your school, you're purely endorsing from state level fast food, handheld. And yes, by the way, it is fast food. It's sloppy joes, it's burgers, it's wieners, it's pizzas, it's all of that stuff. 10% of what we spend on healthcare, as I said earlier, is on obesity, and it's going to double. We're not teaching our kids. There's no statutory right to teach kids about food, elementary or secondary school, okay? We don't teach kids about food, right? And this is a clip from an elementary school, which is very common. Right. Who knows what this is? Potatoes. Potato? So you think these are potatoes? Do you know what that is? Do you know what that is? Broccoli. What about this? Our good old friend. Do you know what this is, honey?
Celery.
No. What do you think it is, darling? Onion. Immediately you get a really clear sense of do the kids know anything about where food comes from. Who knows what that is?
Pear.
What do you think this is?
I don't know.
If the kids don't know what stuff is, then they will never eat it. Normal. England and America. England and America. Guess what fixed that? Guess what fixed that? 2 one-hour sessions. We've got to start teaching our kids about food in schools, period. I want to tell you about something. I want to tell you something that kind of epitomises trouble that we're in, guys. Okay? I want to talk about something so basic as milk. Every kid has the right to milk at school. Your kids will be having milk at school, breakfast and lunch. Right? They'll be having 2 bottles. Okay? And most kids do. But milk ain't good enough anymore. There's someone at the milk board. All right? Don't get me wrong. I support milk. Someone at the milk board probably pay a lot of money to work out that if you put loads of flavourings and colourings and in milk, right, more kids will drink it. You know, now that's going to catch on. The apple board is going to work out if they make toffee apples, they'll eat more apples. Do you know what I mean? For me, there ain't no need to flavour. There's sugar in everything. I know the ins and outs of that food in everything. Even milk hasn't escaped the kind of modern day problems. There's our milk, there's our carton. In that is nearly as much sugar as one of your favourite cans of fizzy pop, and they're having 2 a day. So, let me just show you. We've got one kid here having, 8 tablespoons of sugar a day. There's your week. There's your month. And I believe of putting in just the 5 years of elementary school sugar just from milk. Now, I don't know about you guys, but judging the circumstances in the whole world would look at the statistics and the evidence, and they would find any government of old guilty of child abuse. That's my belief. Now, if I came up here, and I wish I could come up here today, and hang a cure for AIDS or cancer, you'd be fighting and scrambling to get to me. All this is preventable. That's the good news. It's very, very preventable. So, let's just think about, we've got a problem here, we need to reboot. Okay, so, in my world, what do we need to do? Here's the thing, right? It cannot just come from one source. To reboot and make real, tangible change, so I can look you in the white of the eye, in this time, the history of your children's lives, happiness, and let's not forget, you're clever if you will, you're going to all of that stuff, it'll look different, okay? So, supermarkets, where else do you shop so religiously? Week in, week out. How much money do you spend in a supermarket? Love them, they just sell us what we want, alright. They owe us to put a food ambassador in every major supermarket. They need to help us shop, they need to show us how to cook quick, seasonal foods for people that are busy. This is not expensive, it is done in some, and it needs to be done across the board in America soon and quick. The big brands, the food brands, need to put food education at the heart of their businesses. I know easier said than done, it's the future, it's the only way. Fast food. With our food industry, it's very competitive. I've had loads of secret papers and dealings with fast food restaurants. I mean, basically, they've weaned us on to these hits of sugar, some fat and X, Y, and everyone loves them. Right? So these guys are going to be part of the solution, but we need to get the government, with all of the fast food purveyors and the restaurant industry, and over a fast 6-7 year period, wean us off the extreme amounts of fat, sugar, fat, and all the other non-food ingredients. Now, also, back to the sort of big brands, like I said earlier, is an absolute farce and has got to be sorted. Okay, school. Obviously in schools, we owe it to them to make sure those 180 days a year, from that little precious age of 4 to 18, 20, 24, whatever, be cooked proper, fresh food from local girls on site. Okay, there needs to be a new standard of fresh food for your children. Under the circumstances, it's profoundly important that every single American child leaves school knowing how 10 recipes that will save their life. Life skills. That means that they can be students, young parents, and be able to sort of duck and dive around the basics of cooking, no matter what recession is next time. If you can cook, recession money doesn't matter. If you can cook, time doesn't matter. Workplace, we haven't really talked about it. You know, it's now time for corporate responsibility to really look at what they feed or make available to their staff. The staff are the mums and dads of America's children. Marissa, died in her hand. I think she'd be quite happy if corporate America could start feeding their staff properly. Definitely they should be left out. Let's go back to the home. Now, look, if we do all this, and we can, it's so achievable. You can care and be commercial, absolutely. But the home needs to start passing on cooking again, for sure. For sure. Pass it as a philosophy. For me, it's quite romantic. But it's about if one person teaches 3 people how to cook something, you know, and you teach 3 of them mates, that only has to repeat yourself 25 times, and that's the whole population of America. Romantic, yes, but most importantly, it's about trying to get people to realise that every one of your individual efforts makes a difference. We've got to put back what's been lost. Into the kitchen. Huntington, where I made this programme, with this prime time programme, hopefully will inspire people to really get on track. I truly believe the change will happen. Huntington, I worked with the community. I worked in the schools. I found local sustainable funding to get every school in the area from the chunk of the fresh food. $6,500 per school. That's what it takes. $6,500 per school. The kitchen is $25 a month. Okay, you can do 5,000 people a year, which is 10% of their population, and it's people. You know, it's local cooks, teach local. It's free cooking, guys. In the mainstream. This is real tangible change. Real tangible change. Around America, if we just look back, there's beautiful things going on. There are angels around America doing cool things. Fun tools, setups, education. There are amazing people doing. The problem is they all know what they're doing. There's no cash. You need to recognise experts and the angels, identify them, and allow them to easily find a resource to keep rolling out what they're already doing and doing well. This is or Mrs. Obama, the things she wants to do. And I know it's having an English person standing here for you, talking about all of this. All I can say is I care. I'm a father. And I love this country. And I believe truly, actually, that if man in this country, beautiful around the world. America, I believe, other people follow. It's important.
Yeah, right. Looks like,
When I was in Huntington, trying to get a few things to work when they weren't, I thought, if I had a magic wand, what would it do? And I thought, you know what, I just want to be put in front of some of the most amazing shakers in America.
that's true.
And a month later, Ted phoned me up and gave me this award. I'm here. So my wish. Dyslexic, so I'm a bit slow. My wish is for you to help a strong, sustainable movement to educate every child about food, and to empower people everywhere to fight obesity.
I wish for everyone to help create a knowledge about food. I told you if you can generate your own energy from the wind, the sun, the water, and you don't need the government, you don't need a bank. This should be a goal of ours. This is the whole liberty village concept. We should be doing that. Alright, we're almost out of time. Go to freeamerican.com to be able to tell your neighbors about this show, about the importance of food, about what we can do. Growing your own food is like putting your own money. That's what Ron Fish said, a gardener from South LA. Not exactly a place where they're really aware of it, huh? And I've got publicly, our nations are allied with Israel. Privately, we get secret intelligence to Israel's enemies in times of war, says John Loftus and Mark Aarons. talking about the secret war against the Jews. Of course, this is a Jewish, another psyops. We're going to make you, baby, for her. Come on, baby, we're almost done here. Come on, Bush. Whose collar is that? Hello, dear. Becky's, you got it now?
Yep.
I think she needs to go outside.
It was too tight.
It was too tight? Oh, he got fat.
Yeah, and he was choking.
Yeah. Yeah, look at this PSYOPs here. Still a part of PSYOPs. The U.S. has always been a strong ally to the Jews and to Israel. That's because we're controlled by them. So the history books tell us. The U.S. rescued the Jews from concentration camps and defeated Hitler. The U.S. ensured that the Jews would subsequently have their own nation after the horrors of the Holocaust, and has stood by us for Israel economically, politically, since the establishment of the Jewish states, or so our history books say. In fact, says the PSYOPs operation, the secret history of nations, of relations between the United States and Israel has been fraught with betrayal and sabotage. It is a history of duplicity and fakery, one painted with smiles and handshakes, while the other hand is poised to attack. As events are now moving rapidly on the stage of the Middle East, it's entirely possible that, as Henry Kissinger has stated, Israel may soon cease to exist. Disturbingly, there appear to be highly positioned Jews throughout the course of history who have been complicit in this sabotage. The following examples are illustrative only and are not in any sense comprehensive. Don't even want to hear that. If you told it from both sides, Israel, what Israel has done to Palestine and to the U.S. and to you, you'd think Hitler was kind to them. I'm out of here. I'm Clay Douglas. I'm the Free American. Happy Veterans Today. I am a veteran. If you want to support the people that are supporting the veterans and trying to get you the truth out, go to freeamerican.com and send a donation. Or go to shop.freeamerican.com and get some of the books and videos, films that I've made and that I have for sale there. God bless you all. Salute veteran. And make donations to help veterans and the people that are at war for them. To back them.